like I was telling that sister earlier, you don't think that when I walk past, these folks don't look at me, these people don't stare, they don't wonder. You don't think these people are judging me. You don't think these people hate to even see me come, and they wonder why does that poor boy have such a high hope in himself? Why does that poor boy, in society, when we look at society, why is he so happy? And so I know one that gives all happiness. I know one that gives all joy. I know one that can calm the seas. I know one that can control the birds. They even saying that I know one that can calm anybody of water. I know one that can mend a broken heart. I know one that can give comfort even in the hour of mourning. I know one that can give you love even in the morning, even in the midst, in the moment of grieving. I know one that can bring light even in the midst of darkness. I know one that can give a little boy hope after the most damaging thing that's ever happened to his life. I know one that can pave the way for you and me. I know one that has made a way for folks that look just like me to still be able to stand, to still be able to sing, to still be able to praise his name. I know one that sent his son out of love. I know one that not only did he send his son for love, but to show us the way. I know one that no matter what we do and who we are, already knew us. I know one that can bring the dead back to life. I know one that can bring your life back to life. I know one that can inspire you, that can motivate you, that can generate a sin-sick soul. I know one that can bring nations to his knees. I know one that makes kings and to tear down kingdoms. I know one. I know one. I know one that lives ever after. I know one that is grounded in love. I know one that gives peace even in the midst of the storm. I know one that controls the storm. I know one that loves you more than you ever know. I know one that can bring a nation that was supposed to be built on Christian nations. And yet we turn our mind, we close our hearts, we close our minds to the injustices that happens each and every day. I know one that can open them minds. I know one that can mend them hearts. I know one that can make right what was once wrong. I know one that is stirring up a new revelation. I know one that is stirring up a presence like this world has never known. I know one. I know one. I know one that can turn a post shepherd boy into a mighty, mighty king. Laying the ground for the bloodline for his very own heir to come down his bloodline. I know one. I know one that no matter what you need, what you desire, that he can open doors and he can close doors. I know one that can elevate kings and queens. I know one. Oh my Lord. They can make kings and queens out of shepherds. I know one that allow us to go to the brink of death and yet fulfill us and add to us more than we'll ever imagine. I know one that has no respect of a man or a woman. I know one. I know one that can bring the world to its knees. I know one that can make the world stop what it is that it's doing to understand that we must return. We must return back to love. I know one that created the heavens and the skies. I know one that has created the roses, the flowers. I know one. I know one. I know one that can give peace. I know one that can give love. I know one that can give grace. I know one that can give mercy. That one is the Most High. And so unless we return back to that one, to the source, we've lost our way somewhere along the way that we've allowed profit. Somewhere along the way we've allowed material things to replace love. Somewhere along the way that we've allowed hatred to reign supreme. and love non-existence. Somewhere along the way, that it became easier for us to look the other way than to allow our voices to be heard. Somewhere along the way, we've become blinded to the truth. Somewhere along the way, we've managed to copy their ways. Somewhere along the way, we've allowed our spirits to die and wither for the desires of this world. Somewhere along the way, for things that we can even take with us, that we won't even be able to take the homes, we won't be able to take the cars, we won't be able to take the fancy jewelry, we won't be able to take not even the shell of our bodies with us. When that time, when that hour, when that day comes. And so somewhere along the way, we're going to have to find our way, and we're going to turn around and we're going to return back to love. Somewhere along the way that we must not allow our lives to be so transformed and so twisted and so turned up based off of other people's opinions. Somewhere along the way that we're going to have to discover that other people's opinions that no longer matter, that it is what God says and what God commands us to do and what God commands us to have and to be and to become. Somewhere along the way, we're going to have to wake up to the reality that God's love is what matters. God's approval is what matters. What we would have to account for matters. And so we have to bring morals back into it, and we have to bring love back into it, and we have to bring forgiveness back into it. Somewhere along the way. I pray that we wake up somewhere along the way, that we return or understand that this is a nation that was built on inclusion, not exclusion, that we a nation that if we're only tapping into 5% of the population when it comes to the talents and the abilities and the crafts and the gifts and the purposes that was installed with each and every one of us. Just imagine if we tap into all and everyone that resides within this nation. How great, how amazing, how awesome this nation could be. Somewhere along the way, we're going to have to understand that God's love, L-O-V-E, that God's love must lead and guide us, that God's love is the light that this world needs, that God's love is the light. In order for us to find our way, that God's love is the light even in the midst of the darkness, that God's love can heal a broken heart, that God's love can bring and motivate a soul that was once broken. So as you look at me, understand that somewhere along the way that I discovered and I came to know that God loved all of his children. And we have to stop believing in the deception and the lies that the enemy attempts to convince us that is true, that is reality. Somewhere along the way that if we take time out to listen to each other, to understand that each and every one of us have a story, that we'll be very shocked, we'll be very amazed that we have more in common. We have more in common than what separates us, what divides us. Somewhere along the way, we'll come to understand that we can no longer blame mama, we can no longer blame daddy, we can no longer blame anybody else, because we have a choice in the whole mix of all of that. We can choose hate or we can choose love. Somewhere along the way, we must all return to the almighty love of God.